Hey everyone, it's Ian. I'm back again to introduce another best practice module, this time for application portfolio management. This is really the cornerstone of most EA initiatives, and we find that around 70% of our customers actually start by mapping their applications in order to build out their enterprise architecture. So why is that? Well, the fact is that most change projects, whether it's on the business or the IT side, end up impacting your application portfolio. So starting there helps you build that foundation for impact analysis. In addition to that, we find that EAs are able to deliver a lot of value very quickly to the organization by getting control over their application portfolio. That's because often there's opportunities for cost realization as well as for investment to better realize the strategy that the company is en route to deliver. So by building out your application portfolio in Ardoq, we wanted to give you the foundation to answer 5 critical business questions. And of course, with Ardoq's best practices, as always, we give you the scope necessary to do that, but also the full flexibility and extendability to build on that as you mature your APM initiative. So those 5 questions that we want to touch on today, and which we'll demonstrate in the product in just a moment, are what are my applications and how much do they cost? Essentially the first question anybody has, and often one that's really hard to answer. 2, which organizational needs do these applications fulfill? So what are our capabilities that are being realized by these applications? And who should I contact if I'm going to make a change? This is a different dynamic than most EAs think about, is really understanding the people involved. 3, in what applications should I increase the level of investment, and what applications do we have cost-saving opportunities? So this is looking at how can we analyze our application portfolio to evaluate potential investment opportunities and cost opportunities. Finally, which capabilities are candidates for optimization? So these are the capabilities that might be critical to the business, but also being realized by multiple applications that may or may not be performing at the level we want them to be. And what are the cost savings that can be associated with that optimization? The final question, and probably the most important one, and where you can really leverage the power of the graph, is understanding impact. What is the impact of change when I change one of these applications in my portfolio? Who is it? What are the risks? What are the stakeholders? And what capabilities are involved in that change? So really bridging the gap between business and IT and really understanding how change can impact a wider part of the organization than just your application portfolio in Excel. All right, so let's jump into the tool and see how we've actually configured Ardoq in order to quickly answer those questions and what we've done and provided you out of the box in order to engage the wider organization. First and foremost, obviously, the first question is, how much do I need to document in order to start realizing value? And look, we're shooting for quick value, not perfect. So we don't need to do this in entirety. We don't need your full application portfolio in order to start realizing value. So it's really important to keep that in the back of your mind. Look for the areas where you have large amounts of change, where you have large amounts of value and understanding, and start there and organically grow. But our recommended scope includes your capabilities, both business and technical, your application portfolio, your people, and the organizations providing those applications. By getting that kind of information into a tool like Ardoq, we can do really important analysis when it comes to impact and to evaluation on which applications are critical, if they're realizing your business needs and goals, and understand who do we need to talk to both internally and externally when we think about rationalization or improvements on applications. So getting that scope in is step number 1, and how you do that can be a number of ways. We provide out of the box an Excel template and a pre-configured importer, so you can just drag and drop an Excel sheet into Ardoq to import your capabilities and applications, or vendors. But also you might want to look at more long-lasting integrations, especially on the application side. So we have things already in organizations like CMDBs. So ServiceNow comes out of the box with integration. Keep your application portfolio in sync and live, and build that communication channel with your operation team so that they can see both their impact on the architecture as well as keep that data up to date with your application portfolio. Really good way of keeping that in sync. But once you start getting that data in, you're going to want to get an overview. There's a lot of ways to think of overviews. One, and the most common, is obviously in something like Excel, a table view. So here I've chosen a simplified table view looking at only a couple key attributes. There's a lot more that you can build on top of this, but looking at lifecycle and cost. That gives us a quick overview of our cost and our application lifecycles. We can sort by that, we can filter, we can create heat maps, etc. But this is really hard to get that really big picture overview because it is just a list of tables. It's not a huge improvement on Excel. Of course, we could also visualize it from a more textual perspective, right? So what are the descriptions of these applications and highlighting which of those fields we want to highlight there. Again, great for getting that critical information, but not really understanding the overview. So what we need to do when we start thinking about our application portfolio is visualize it in a context to answer those specific needs, right? An Excel sheet or a list of tabular information doesn't answer a lot of questions, at least not easily. So if one of the questions we want to answer is, okay, what applications do I have? What capabilities are they realizing, and who are the people that are the experts? That's an entirely different dimension than what you would get out of a table. You want to know about relationships. You want to know about the graph. This is why Ardoq is so valuable here. What we've done is we've taken that information, we've automatically visualized it into that component matrix in order to highlight exactly that. So here we see on the left-hand side our capabilities. We can drill down to see how they're broken up and understand which applications realize which capabilities. And in our columns, we can see who are the experts that we need to consider. This is really, really valuable in just understanding, okay, criticality of an application as far as a capability perspective, and who do I need to talk to in regards to expertise. But that's not the only way to think about an application, right? The criticality of the application might be important, but maybe we need to think about more about the value of that application in regards to its performance. So what we have here is taking that same view, slightly changed perspective to show a field called strategic rating. And what that is a calculation of whether or not this is an application that we want to eliminate, to invest in, to migrate away from, etc. And we've again done that same type of categorization. All of these views are dynamic. They're built on data and the perspective that you choose. So I'm not drawing anything here. All I'm doing is manipulating the X and Y axes in order to, redisplay the same data I already have to a new stakeholder to answer that new question. And that's really critical here. When you think about communication across teams, nobody really has the same perspective on what you're talking about. When it goes to evaluation, though, we need to think about things not just about how they're connected and how they're realizing their capabilities, but also about their performance and how they're meeting our business needs. One way to do that is to plot them on a bubble chart and look at things like the technical fit and the business fit. Now, the technical fit and business fit are plotting our applications into a time matrix. This is one of Gartner's standard for reviewing application portfolios. And in doing so, we're able to highlight, look, these are our high value applications, and their size is determined by their cost. Now, getting that information is obviously critical and not entirely trivial. This business fit and technical fit is actually a calculation, and that calculation is derived from a simple survey that you can distribute to your technical and your business owners. 2 different surveys, out of the box again provided for you, 3 simple questions, and in doing so, what happens is we take those answers and calculate a new score. So again, utilizing dependencies and utilizing the power of the graph in order to automatically score our applications is really, really critical here. So we've chosen to visualize this in a time matrix, but we can do the exact same thing by calculating the number of integrations it has, the number of experts that depend on it, etc. Looking at our application portfolio simply by evaluation, evaluating the fit is one thing, but we also need to think about time. How long do we plan on depending on this application? What is the life cycle of that application? So what I've done here is I've actually filtered away all of my applications except for those that don't meet our business needs. These are our eliminate candidates. And here I have a shortlisted timeline view of the life cycle of each of those applications. What that means is if I know I'm going to get rid of one of these applications, yet we have a plan in the organization to be dependent on it for 5 years, obviously something needs to change. Either we need to find a great candidate to replace that application, or we need to change our strategy, our implementation of how we're going to realize whatever that plan is. When we think about capabilities, we also want to utilize those as a tool to modify our application portfolio. That might mean investing in different applications, or might mean eliminating applications that don't meet our needs. I've taken that same strategic fit rating in order to create a heat map. So here we see our applications in red. Those are the eliminate candidates, and they're nested within the capabilities, the technical capabilities that they're realizing. You could do this from a business perspective. I've chosen in this example to do technical capabilities. But here we have something called the web portal. And the web portal capability, this has 5 different applications realizing it. So that's probably an opportunity for rationalization and realizing some cost savings. And obviously here with these 3 red candidates, these are probably the first place to start looking for impact and the ability to remove. I can take that same kind of filtering and drill down into a bubble chart again. So again, this is utilizing the power of the graph in order to use relationships to filter away my application portfolio. So if you think about this, that means you can filter your application portfolio. You can have one application portfolio for your entire organization, but create sub-portfolios based on the departments that are responsible for those or by the capabilities that they're realizing. That means I can say, show me all my applications for this capability, and then plot it according to its total direct cost and its complexity, i.e. the number of integrations it has. So here we have those 3 candidates. They are both candidates for elimination. They're relatively high cost, and they're relatively low in integrations. That means they're probably quick wins to remove. On the other side, we have 2 candidates that are not labeled for investment, nor are they labeled for for elimination, and they're actually quite costly. So probably some other way of us optimizing there as well. Understanding if we drill down into one of those applications and understanding how that impacts in regards to stakeholders and risk is an entirely different question. So what I've done is I've taken the perspective of the web portal, which again was that technical capability, and I've included the applications that are realizing it, grouped them by their strategic rating. So here we have our elimination candidates, and now I've also included their integrations as well as the people who are responsible for them. In doing so, I now can build a roadmap for as-is-to-be modeling, for branching into a different survey or scenario, as well as being able to say, look, here are my candidates, and these will be the cost savings that I'll be able to realize. And of course, utilizing the graph again, we can create the dashboards necessary to show that realization. Once I start to identify the candidates that I would like to remove, you might want to drill down and understand it in a greater context. So before, we just looked at the one capability it was realizing and the owners. But if I drill down into one of these candidates and said, okay, show me also the organizations that are providing it, so which company, as well as the integrations. So I'm taking a very narrow perspective. And all I've done here is drill down on my applications to help understand the risk and impact of that kind of decision. So that walks us through our first 5 main business questions. But of course, we're going to want to engage with the organization at a much greater level. So how can we do that? Well, one is this presentation I've been using actually to navigate through this scenario is actually something that you can embed in Confluence and SharePoint or any other intranet site. And this is something that's live and dynamic. So as the data changes, whether it's changing in a data source that's integrated with Ardoq or changing actually in Ardoq, all of your presentations are going to be up to date. So what does that mean to you? Well, that means that you can work on your application portfolio, work on designing a better outcome for the future, and instead of spending time on manually drawing presentations and distributing them across the organization, or even worse, having one presentation that you manually have to communicate and translate to new stakeholders. So being able to dynamically build presentations, change those presentations on the fly based on data, that reduces the manual labor on the architect side and increases the impact and engagement in the larger organization. So that's how you can get that data out to the public. But how you get it in, again, looking at those surveys is going to be a huge thing, and also looking at integrations and opportunities there. If you'd like to learn more about how Ardoq can help you on your APM initiative, please feel free to contact sales@ardoq.com or use our in-app chat, which is both found on our website as well as in our app. And we'd love to have a conversation with you, show you a demonstration, and maybe even get you started on a 14-day trial. Look forward to hearing from you.